You're listening to the Courting Happiness podcast. This is a place where self-care becomes part of your day, a space where you learn evidence-based strategies to help your life, share it with those you love, and cultivate well-being at work. I'm your host, Dr. Kortni Alston. I'm a former news director, television reporter turned happiness scholar, TEDx speaker, and transformational trainer. I also understand hardships. While working my dream job in television, I lived a nightmare of suddenly becoming a young widow after 86 days of marriage. I became committed to learning more about resilience, healing, and happiness. This is how I discovered my area of research, which is positive psychology. Now I'm living my calling of training individuals and organizations on happiness, and my new chapter begins with being happily engaged. The Courting and Courting Happiness is about a true courtship. I like to say commitment with happiness. The K in courting stands for the vulnerability of sharing my story, inspirational interviews with phenomenal people, the infusion of positive psychology, and so much more. You'll learn how to commit to your well-being one episode at a time. I hope you subscribe and share. So, are you ready? Let's get started. Welcome to episode 18. It's time to set some boundaries. I'm talking about setting some healthy boundaries. Now, setting healthy boundaries are important in terms of honoring your self-care. So today's episode is about setting healthy boundaries to protect your self-care. If you aren't used to setting boundaries, well, it could be a challenge, right? Because you might feel a little selfish or maybe overwhelmed or even guilty as it relates to doing it. But this episode is all about really getting you to feel empowered by setting boundaries and protecting your self-care. The American Psychological Association has published an action plan for self-care for practitioners, and they discuss the importance of making personal and professional self-care a priority. Now, it focuses on making time for activities that are personally restorative. I love that. Personally restorative, like exercise, yoga, meditation, maybe in a massage, or simply reading for pleasure. I like to also add possibly listening to this podcast too. So there's so many different things in terms of those positive activities that we've actually also talked about in past episodes. But this also really allows you to think about all of the specific items to include in terms of your restorative plan, right? For your well-being strategy. And so let's also say this, that this gives you kind of almost your own game plan in terms of allowing you to really be able to build a plan that will serve you and also remember to protect your self-care. So Joaquin Silva has written an insightful article for positivepsychology.com. In it, he discusses 10 examples of healthy boundaries. And I wanted to talk about some of them today. He uses really a variety in terms of talking about personal and yet professional examples. So we're going to start with the professional examples first. So Silva mentions that teachers can maintain healthy boundaries by limiting sharing elements of their personal lives with their students, right? So you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to just share maybe this dynamic in terms of not sharing so much about my personal life with my students. So that's a good example in terms of possibly educators setting boundaries. And also, let me reference that depends on your comfort zone, right? So a good example would be today, I just finished sharing my actually my first video lecture for the semester um, with my class, and I'm a professor at a university. Right now I'm working remotely because of the pandemic. So in that introductory video with students, they got to know a little bit about me, but they got to know a little bit about me professionally, right? I shared about my time working as a television reporter in various markets. And maybe the closely only personal thing I probably did share within that video was how I'm engaged to a television reporter here in Charlotte. So my fiance happens to also be a journalist. So he is a television reporter and I'm a former television reporter. And I talked a little bit about that. So, but again, it's about our comfort zone. Another professor may decide, I'll stick to sharing what I've done professionally, but I don't know if I'm going to talk about my partner, maybe. Or some may decide, like myself, to include that. Because one thing I do love is the fact that my fiance and I share our journalism together, and I invite him into the classroom. And so, many students already know him anyway, in terms of especially if they're from this area and they've watched him and they adore him. But it's also great for some students who are not in this area, are not within the state of North Carolina, who may not know him, and now they're getting to know him. But again, these are individual decisions, right? So if I were to talk to, again, other professors, they may actually have different experiences, and they may have different boundaries in terms of what they would prefer to share or not to share. So Silva gives us a great example in terms of that. He also mentioned how teachers can also set boundaries by sharing what they're not comfortable with, right? So that is also a good way. And I think it's actually good because, especially in terms of higher education, and particularly, I can say this as a professor, I think it also helps teach students boundaries for themselves. So I love always sharing with students why I do things so they can understand the decision making, so that can also serve them as well. So I thought he gave great information in terms of elements as it relates to teachers in terms of education. But he also provides information for mental health professionals. He adds that practitioners need to practice self care and set healthy boundaries with their clients. Now, he used an example of a therapist, maybe not connecting with patients on social media and being clear about that rule. He says that this creates a boundary of not mixing professional responsibilities with their personal lives. And again, everyone is different. Now, this is interesting. I can relate to this because a few weeks ago, my primary doctor actually just resigned. And so during my office visit, she shared with me prior, and plus the office sent us all emails and let us know that she had resigned. And so when I had my appointment with her, I knew that would be my last visit with her. So and she's just been an exceptional doctor. So I was really kind of grieving. I thought to myself, oh my God, this is our last appointment together. And because she's amazing. She's amazing. So during that visit, she shared with me that I can connect with her on social media for us to keep in touch. And like I just shared, she's an exceptional doctor. And I was heartbroken that she resigned, but I was so grateful that she gave me permission to connect with her via social media. Matter of fact, I remember telling her, I am so grateful that you've given me permission because I didn't want to cross any boundaries. Because in the back of my mind, I thought, oh, I would love to keep in touch with her. But before I could even mention it, she told me, "Hey, let's keep in touch via social media." So, because no matter what, I am is about protecting a person's privacy, and but I was really grateful that she said, "Hey, let's connect." So before the before the day ended, I had already sent her friend request in Facebook. And so I'm so happy to share that we are connected via social media. And I'm looking forward to remaining connected with her via social media as well. But boundaries aren't just for professional relationships, right? Keep that in mind. Boundaries aren't just simply, okay, this is what I'm going to do professionally. You should also think about it personally in terms of your personal life as well. So healthy boundaries can manage a person's time. So Silva mentions in a romantic relationship, One might ask a partner for maybe a night, a week alone, or whatever the case may be in terms of their relationship. But I thought about my own relationship in terms of what he shared because, as I mentioned, my fiance Ken and I might I've mentioned this in past episodes, and Ken has also been a part of this podcast. So if you love to meet my fiance Ken, for those of you who haven't, check out one of our previous episodes where he and I talk about our relationship and how positive psychology kind of serves us in our relationship. But Ken and I actually have a no technology policy during our date nights. So every Friday, we have our time together, which is so beneficial because as a professor, as I told you a little bit about my day today, but I'm juggling courses and classes and so forth, and but then I'm also have my speaking engagements as a trainer, and then I'm also writing, and then I am also working on this podcast, and then I'm also working on other content creation, and I have multiple projects. And I will tell you that, Ken's time is so busy too. So Ken, again, is a television reporter in the Charlotte market. We live in the Charlotte area, and he also serves on the national board of one of our journalism organizations. And he is, well, both of us mentor, but his time, even when he's coming home, are spent having meetings and several phone calls. And it's so ironic, last weekend we spent time together, working on judging a competition. He had his candidates that he was judging, I had mine, and we were busy as a couple kind of working on that together, which I love when we do these things together. So this kind of gives you an idea about the time in our household, right? And how he and I can be stretched professionally. But love every minute because of the fact that we're passionate about what we do. So now you have an idea about our schedules. So our date nights are sacred. We refrain from technology and we just focus on each other. But there are rules because Ken is a journalist and he might be called in for breaking news, or perhaps there could be something demanding or an emergency that's time sensitive on my end, right? As it relates to one of the many multiple projects that I have. So emergencies are the only elements that we kind of permit to kind of interfere with our date night, but our boundaries are written in stone. Matter of fact, many of my friends who will begin texting me on Friday, like maybe late afternoon, almost hitting early evening, some maybe early evening, before Ken comes home from from work, and they'll say, "Hey, is it okay to chat? Has date night started? Has it started yet?" So that gives you an idea of how even the people that are closest to us, the ones that we love, know about how important this night is for us. Our Friday nights, are. And so keep that in mind. Keep those boundaries in mind. But I will tell you this, that communicating boundaries can keep from building resentment. Because notice I said that we had rules, right? Because unfortunately, life can happen. Um, I think a few weekends ago, I had a death in my family. Ken has as well, and um, so you never know what's going to happen, right? And so when things like that, of course, I mean, those are emergencies. But then also when we're dealing with work, things can happen as well. And so it's important to create those rules in terms of, I won't be sending, look, I won't be sending how can I kind of explain it? Like, I won't send a casual text, or not a casual, or a casual post. I'm just thinking in terms of things that we might just do casually on our own, right? Um, but here we are on a date or a date night, and now it's about being kind of focused in on each other. So so those things, of course, we're not sitting around doing that, but we are spending time together, and we're open to, unfortunately, if there is an emergency, having that boundary broken in terms of the rule. So the rule is, okay, if it's an emergency, we both redirect our focus, right? Because especially when it's personal and it's family, and especially if it's something that's life changing, or a problem, or something that may need a solution, right? But communicating what that is so important in terms of understanding the boundaries, what the expectation of the night is. So if I said, okay, hey, let's have date night, and then we're both like on Facebook, or I guess a better example would be, I'm on Facebook and Ken's like, but this is our date night. What are you doing? But we both know that we refrain from technology. Of course, we keep an eye out if, unfortunately, one of those emergencies that I just mentioned happen. But understanding and communicating is so important because, again, it allows, really, um, a way to strengthen the relationship, to have a clarity as it relates to the boundary, and it keeps from building resentment. So, also something to keep in mind is saying no. Oh, it's taken me a long time to figure that one out. Saying no, because I would say yes to a lot of things in my, for years. And then I've learned that saying no can help you, because saying no to certain things is about saying yes to yourself and your needs. So saying no can help you say yes to your self-care. So be very cautious in regards to all the things you may be saying yes to, and begin to reevaluate, should I say yes to all of these things? What is this keeping me from? And if saying yes is overwhelming you, then you need to learn to say no, right? You need to learn to say no, because saying yes and having so much on your plate, and having so much that it's keeping you from self-care. So remember that sometimes saying no can help, really can help you say yes to yourself, yes to your needs, and yes to self-care. So Stephen Covey has a transformative quote that I hope will inspire you and serve you as a reminder. So Covey says this: you have to decide what your highest priorities are, and have the courage, pleasantly, smilingly, non apologetically, to say no to other things. And the way you do that is by having a bigger yes burning inside. I hope you say yes to protecting your self care. I hope you say yes to honoring your well being. I hope you say yes to you. To you. All right. Say yes to yourself. That's our episode. I can't believe it. That is our episode, but it doesn't have to end here. And I don't want it to end here. Let's continue this conversation online. We're now on Instagram. Join us at Courting Happiness. Don't forget, that's courting with a K. Also, you can join our private community on Facebook. Join us at the Courting Happiness podcast community. Our private Facebook community is a safe haven to share, meet more people looking to build positive relationships, focus on well-being, and create a happier life. Now, are you ready to spread happiness? I hope you subscribe and share this podcast with your family, friends, coworkers, and all the important people in your world. We release a new episode every Thursday. Congratulations on your continued commitment to your courting happiness journey. We want you to be well, be happier, and be kinder to yourself. We can't wait to see you next week.